Hello, welcome. So in this video you can see from the title I'm gonna discuss about how to love science and is there any point in doing so. So the title might sound a bit crazy. It is a bit crazy in that sense because first of all I'm saying how to love science. So that's a very valid question. A lot of my viewers maybe they want to love science, maybe they already do love science. So in either way, in either case, this question how to love science will be very much relevant and very much important for them. But the next moment I am asking, is there any point in doing so? So if I think there is no point, then why even make the video, right? That's the first question. Well, actually, in this video I just want to bring out the contrast between finding something to live for, and which in our case is science, let's say, how to love science, and I'll also share some important, like some personal strategies or some personal kind of, you could say, yeah, strategy would be the best word that I use to love science. Because it might appear that some people are, no, that guy's born for science, he was into science from a very young age, he loves science. uh, this kind of feeling, it might, from the outside it might seem that, yeah, this is the case, that some people are made for science, some people are not made for science, and that kind of thing. Yeah, I think that's better. So but the reality is that, let me just tell you, the reality is that it's impossible for a human, whoever they may be, to love one particular activity, one particular field, be it science, be it arts, be it philosophy, whatever, for a very long time. So it's not like I love physics, yeah, I'm doing physics, yeah, but it's not like there are, there are times I hate physics, there are times I don't feel like doing stuff, there are times all of this is too much for me, yeah, there are times. So it's not like science is built inside my blood or something, my love for science comes naturally, no, it's not that. And I believe this is true for each and every human, regardless of what they're doing, whether they're doing science, whether they're doing some other, like let's say some corporate job, whatever. It's very human nature that none of us can, get rid of, get out of. And it's very human, it's this human nature that we cannot love one particular activity, one particular field of study for a long time without ever feeling like, feeling lost, or feeling fatigued, and that kind of thing. And this is why this question, both the questions are equally important. How to love science? Because you have to find something to live for. Since you are here, we don't know why we are here, we don't know why I was born, whether there is some grand meaning or whether it's all meaningless, we know nothing about it. Even leave alone meaning, we just don't know even the basic. Like, I wake up, I go to university every day, I go on the bus, on the tram, on the roads, I see a lot of people doing the same. They're going to their universities, they're going to their workplace. Some people are just wandering about, but nobody has any clue why they're here and what they want to do in life. And even if they do something, even if they are doing something, what does it all mean? Because they will die, all of us will die after some years. So then you might say that this is a meaningless question, and in a way this question is actually useless, because thinking about what's the point of it all will not, that will not be useful if for you. I mean, if you want to do something in life, you have to focus on something. You cannot just question all the time that what's the point, what's the point. That's not a very good strategy, and we don't do that. Even I don't do that. There are times I have these feelings, I have these thoughts, we all do, some more than the others, but we all do, I think. Well, because it's, yeah, it's a balance. Because I think if we just ignore these questions altogether, then life would be very mundane, and in a way, at least this is my personal feeling, in a way we would not be justifying our existence, because we don't know why we exist. That's true for all of us, but at least where we can make a difference, we can at least try to think about the big questions. Whether we get an answer, whether it's even possible to get an answer, is something else. But most of the people out there are not even bothering with the questions, but we are trying to find an answer, or at least we are thinking about it. We are that gives a different kind of satisfaction. Now this satisfaction again is actually meaningless, fundamentally meaningless. I think about nihilism because it makes me feel different from the rest. It gives me some intellectual satisfaction. That's not reason. Because if I claim that as, as justification for thinking about nihilism, then again I contradict the very idea of nihilism, that everything is meaningless, nothing is inherently meaningful. Because I'm saying that no, that means feeling different from the rest, intellectual satisfaction, these things are meaningful to me. Now I am following a philosophy that says everything is meaningless to get what is meaningful to me. That's a big contradiction right there, right? So yeah, it's all, I mean, life is full of contradiction, and I don't just say it in a literary way. It's actually true, from the very basic existential level, from the fundamental level, from the existential level to personal level. I mean, it's by contradiction. I don't mean it's just some small personal problem in your workplace or in your university. Not that kind of contradiction. It's a fundamental. Your very existence is contradicted in a way. So yeah, now my question is how to love science, right? It's our question. First of all, but the question we should ask before that is why do we want to love science? The answer is there is no reason. Some people will love science because, like many other fields, science is also a very important field of inquiry, a very important field of study, very important field of research. So some people will definitely choose science and some people will not. So if you have not chosen science, there is nothing wrong with it. But then how to love science is not a relevant question for you. If you have chosen science, or even if you're just interested in science, I'm not saying you have taken a degree in science, or if you have chosen science as your career, as your profession, that is not necessary. But if you have chosen science, I think we are all humans at the end of the day. So there are some things like emotions, feelings, noise, distractions, from around you, like from your surrounding society, like the external factors, and also from your internal noise. I mean, let's say hormonal fluctuations, mood swings, even your body. Like suppose you fall, like you develop some disease. Now that's not totally in your control. Like not totally, maybe somewhat, but not totally. So all of these things matter, and as humans, we cannot ignore these things, right? But I think in many cases, no, I'm not saying in all cases, but in many cases, emotions and feelings, like I've told this many times before, they are a distraction to the logical mind, especially the logical mind, which the unbiased mind, which is very much important for people who are doing science. Not just reading science just because they like it, like from a curious point of view, but those who are actually doing research, trying to find something new, or those who want to go into research. This is a very important aspect. Like this is very important for them to maintain an unbiased and logical mind, and that is where emotions and feelings can often have this often have a negative impact. That's what I think. So what is the solution? You just become like just destroy all your emotions, just switch off, become an emotionless robot. That's even if that were possible, that would not be a very good idea, because to live in a society, in a human society where 99.99% of humans are like they play by their emotions. If you shut down your emotions, then you will not be able to survive in this society. And even if you're doing science, you maybe we're not studying humans or emotions, but there are a lot of people who do that, even in physics, not just in psychology or behavioral sciences, even in physics. But even if you're, let's say, studying something very abstract or very mathematical, like emotions is not a part of your research interest, even then you have to, you're living in a society which is full of humans. You have to interact with humans, with colleagues, with your supervisor, or maybe with your students. I mean, this is, you cannot ignore. Just shutting yourself emotionally is not a good idea, even if that were possible. But the reality is that that's not even possible, because we're all humans. Maybe some of it's possible with practice over a long period of time, after many, let's say, ups and downs. It's possible to suppress your emotions, to not get emotionally high or emotionally low. That's what I've always believed. Like my personal goal is to take me to such a level that my humanity will still be intact, in the sense, if I see something unfair going on, I will definitely step in that sense. But at the same time, my emotions will be very much, I won't say zero, because that's not possible, and that's not also a good idea. But reach that level. For instance, if I tomorrow, if I get an email saying that I have been accepted for a PhD in the world's best university, I won't get happy. Like, it's not like I won't show this to the outside world, but inside I'll be very happy. No, even inside, maybe I'll be like, okay, that's good, that's good, but I won't get very excited. Number one. Number two, if I get a very, like, say, let's say if I get some bad news, like maybe right now I'm in France, I'm doing my master's in the physics of living systems, statistical physics, biophysics, all this stuff. So suppose tomorrow if I get an email that you have been thrown out from the University of Montpellier, or maybe like your degree has been cancelled. This is just an idea. This is, of course, this sounds very silly, but suppose if I get this kind of email tomorrow, then also I won't get very sad. So it has to be. It's not possible to suppress only negative emotions. So if you want to suppress your emotions, you have to do it both positive and negative. Like on hearing a good news, you get very happy, but if on hearing a bad news, you don't get sad. That's not possible. Either you get very happy on hearing a good news and very sad on hearing a bad news, or you neither get happy nor get sad on hearing any news, whether good or bad. I think I made myself clear with that example. So yeah, and okay, that was enough. Now let me just dive into the question. I don't want to make this very long. So why, how to love science? So the point is, it's since it's not possible for us to shut down our emotions or other distractions completely, and maybe it's not a good idea as well, I told you. But what we can do is weaponize our emotions, weaponize our feelings. And like kind of you can say in a way we're trying to strategize our weak points, because this is just, I'm not sure if this is going to work for everyone, but at least I this is the strategy I have followed, and that's why I'm sharing this with you. Also because I would like to hear your opinions on this as well. That's also one reason I'm putting this out on YouTube, because maybe there is something wrong with this approach. This has worked for me maybe in the short term, but I'm not like it's totally possible that there is something very wrong with this approach, and in which case I would like to hear your comments. Like, I'm always open to constructive criticism. I told you, I always keep telling you, yeah, to my YouTube viewers, to everyone, in fact. So basically, yeah, now what do I mean by weaponize your, so you cannot shut down your emotions, but you can weaponize your emotions. By that, what I mean is that, let us say your rival. I'm not saying like maybe an enemy or that kind of thing, maybe a scientific rival, or maybe someone, if I give you an example from my life, maybe someone you thought would be a good colleague, someone you could actually collaborate with, I mean, in science, in research, and maybe someone you helped them, but they were like nothing special on their own, and you helped them and you gave them a platform which they didn't deserve. But at the end of the day, you are much above them, and you are not. It's not like they have surpassed you, but still you have given them a platform that they didn't deserve. They exploited you. Suppose this is the scenario. This is the scenario. I don't want to make any mention any names or any specific details in this public YouTube video. But suppose if this happened to you, so you have drawn a line which didn't deserve to be drawn. I mean that means you have created something, right? And some other line. So what you can do is that you can, number one, you can try to erase the line. But that's not like, for in this scenario, that would mean I could try to, I would feel sad. Oh my god, why did I help that person? That person was so ungrateful. I could just fuss over that. Maybe I could try to defame the person by telling all this about the person to my friends or to my in my network. I could do all of that in an attempt to erase the line, to shorten that. But that would actually not have helped me. That would in fact help them, because that would, like, we are making them more famous in a way. If we just keep talking about them, that means they have a control over our mind, over the way we think, over the way we behave. Why should we give too much importance to people like them? So this is a very wrong strategy if you try to erase the line. But there is a way to make the line shorter without even touching it. You draw a much longer line beside it. So long, in fact, that line you wouldn't even notice that line effectively. Let's say you have a 1 centimeter line, and if you just and it's like uh, claiming your attention all the time, but then you draw a 1 kilometer line beside it. That's your own line. So beside the 1 kilometer long line, will 1 centimeter make any difference? Will you even notice it? It's still there. Don't mark my words, it's still there. You have not erased it. You have not tried to do anything, like interact with that line physically in a positive or negative way. But to you, it's as if, even to the world, it's almost as if it's not there, because beside a 1 kilometer long line, nobody in this world would notice a 1 centimeter long line. You getting my point, what I'm trying to say? So you should weaponize your feelings. Like, let's say you feel jealous, you feel sad, you feel used, you feel exploited. So all of these feelings are very much common, very much okay, even in the science community. It's not like researchers or scientists are emotionless robots. They only do research, and they only give attend conferences and give talks. They are also humans at the end of the day. There is just like there is politics in the corporate world, there is politics even here in the world of science and research. There is politics. People will try to use your work and claim it as their own. People will try to use you. People will try to manipulate you. People will try to exploit you. This happens all the time, everywhere, in every profession. I think research is nothing different in that sense. And then of course there is this added frustration. We are working for weeks and months without any results. You run the risk of like overshooting the deadline you have to submit. And all this stress is there. It's like in other professions, it's here. It's very real in research as well. So since you cannot get rid of all of this entirely, what you can do is you can try to weaponize this. For instance, you feel jealous about that person. Instead of trying to like cause any harm to them, you use that as your motivation to do something that they couldn't even have imagined. Just draw a 1 kilometer long line beside their small shorter line. That's what I'm trying to say. In my life I did that. You see, I did that. You see, if you look at my profile, I don't like to collaborate. That thing should be very clear. Most of my real original research work or stuff, I have done them on my own. One or two internships I've done, but that's not really collaboration, that's called supervision. And without the supervisors I couldn't have maybe done that, because that time I was an undergraduate student. I needed to learn all of this. I was not very expert in all of this, so I needed to learn all of this, right? But yeah, working on an internship under a supervisor is different. But I'm talking about collaboration. A lot of people do this in my age, because that's very easy. If you can just, like, do a little bit of politics, and like kind of get yourself to collaborate with a lot of seniors, then they do the job. Basically, they have all the knowledge. You maybe just do some one or two routine simulations, some routine codes, just to get your name inside a paper, or to get your name inside a project. No, this person helped us, that's all. I mean, everyone knows, even the person themselves know, they know that they didn't actually do anything significant. I mean, without them the project would be possible. Maybe they just helped here and there, but they didn't do anything on their own. But if you look at my profile, I have always I've got a lot of offers. Of course, if I wanted I could have, but I've always kept myself away from that kind of collaborations, that kind of projects. Most of my work, all of my work, in fact, on my own. Maybe I once or twice I collaborate. That's not actually collaboration. I presented a paper with one or two of my friends, like colleagues, classmates. In which case we kind of got the credits. Both of us got the credits, but it was like mostly my work. That is a different thing. That's not a research collaboration. But the point is, but even then I realized that was maybe a mistake of, I mean, whatever. So when I say weaponize your feelings, weaponize your negative feelings as well as positive feelings, weaponize your emotions and stuff, what I mean by that is that uh, whenever these people have tried to, like, kind of betrayed me, used me, it's not going to happen again. But it happened in the past once or twice, when I maybe put my faith in the wrong kind of people. That has happened. I have done that mistake once or twice, and I have no hesitation to, like, confess or like to admit it in public, because yeah, that's what makes us human. But I have learned from it. That's more important, I think. So I just, instead of just remembering those incidents and, like, getting depressed or getting kind of frustrated myself, I have pushed myself to publish and work on a lot of new projects. Even in the last 3 months, I kind of worked on two projects on my own, like original kind of idea. One of them, I think you know, because I keep talking about it in my YouTube videos. In the recent ones, I built a model to, kind of capture the time evolution of emotions and relationships between two individuals. It's a very basic model, with under a lot of assumptions in its present form, but it's my own model. I didn't base it on any like existing work. I just to make the model realistic, I used some data and some trends from psychology, but from a physics or mathematics point of view, it's my own model. So I did it within 1 month, like the I from idea to the paper. You can read the paper. It's on my research kit. It's on my it's published as a preprint. You can take a look if you want. So yeah, and I mean that's I mean, if the people who have actually seriously read that paper, they would have understood, because recently one of my acquaintances here in France. I'm very new here. It's like it's been only a little over 2 weeks, actually, not even a month. But one or two most people here, especially the professors, they're very supportive, very helpful. And as for friends, well, I have not made a lot of friends, but one or two anyway. So one of them actually, uh, I mean, this is very crazy, but she saw right through my emotional dynamics paper. I mean, no, I'm not saying she understood all the mathematics and stuff, but she asked me that I get the feeling, Arpan, that this cannot be just a scientific curiosity, a work of this magnitude. And by that, it's not just the simulations, computer simulations, and the equations which I have built on my own. That can be done. Anybody could have done that. Anybody who is a little bit knowledgeable in physics and mathematics and this kind of modeling, mathematical modeling, nonlinear dynamics and stuff, could have done that. It's not nothing. That is not. It's not like that is not the thing. But the idea is, it's very unusual, because studying emotions using physics is not unheard of, but it's still something which is very rare. It's not yet mainstream. And the existing work mostly focus on decision making, and, like, if you follow game theory, then strategy and stuff. So basically humans are treated as rational agents, like decision making rational agents, which is not always true, because in that makes the job easier, I understand. But in real life, humans are not always rational making agents. Many times humans act based on their emotions, which are very illogical. They take very, they act in a way which is not at all logical. And you cannot explain those kind of behavior of humans if you just assume that they're just rational agents. They always take the best decision, and they always reason logically. That's not how real humans behave. Humans are emotional. I think a better description of humans would be, no, humans are not rational agents. That's not even that's not even an assumption. That's a very poor assumption. A more realistic assumption would be humans are emotional mess, and there is asymmetry. So you have to model that asymmetry in your equations. Asymmetry in the sense, maybe both of you like each other, but you like them more than they like you. That's one kind of asymmetry. Then it could also be opposite polarity, like maybe you like them but they hate you, and the intensity could also vary. So it's a lot of, my model actually captures all of this very well, but the only limitation in its present form is that it's for two individuals, and right now I'm working on extending it further. That's anyway, that's something else. So she asked me that, Arpan, I can understand that this topic is such a unique topic, yet you managed to do something out of it in under 1 month. Maybe it's not like nothing worth, like maybe very revolutionary or anything, but you managed to do something out of it in 1 month, yet it's such a very new idea. There is no existing one. That's why she thought that, she asked me that, look, I think this whatever this work you did with you have done some internships. Like, she was talking to me, she took a look at my profile after we, like, and kind of, she was like, okay, so you have done a lot of work actually. You have done some technical work, very advanced level, but still those are the mainstream kind of work, like Kuramoto oscillators, coupled oscillation, synchronization, modular group, modular symmetry, theoretical high energy physics, all this stuff. You have done those work as part of internships. That's okay. That means you're talented, but those are still mainstream work. But this your work on emotions, it was done entirely on your own, independently, without any supervision, and in such a short time. So you're like, this cannot be just a scientific curiosity. There should be something more behind this work, and there should be some personal, maybe there is some personal reason. And in a way she was right, because since after going through the lots of emotional ups and downs in my life, I've always wondered whether it's possible to reduce emotions to the level of mathematical equations and nothing more, because that would be very much satisfying to me. Because then it's like, okay, if somebody, if I'm, even if, when I'm emotionally down or up, either way, I'd be like, it's nothing. It can actually be studied using mathematics, and that takes away the mysterious factor from emotions, which is good in a way, because that means I would be more in control with my life. So there was something personal, like a personal challenge behind the project, and maybe that's why, maybe she's right. That's why I could manage whatever I have managed, although it's nothing. Although I get the feeling that the way people talk about it, it's nothing. They kind of overestimate the project, but it's definitely true, and that's when I thought that actually this is what I've been doing, maybe without even realizing myself, for the last few years. That I've tried to weaponize my emotions and weaponize the negative energy that I get from my, let's say, haters would be a strong word, but you understand what I'm trying to say. So I've tried to use that negative energy and try to do something even better, so that they would be even more jealous of me, and then to spite them even better, even more. That's what I'm, it's like a feedback, like you're getting negative feedback, like an oscillators. If you I think I gave this example once before. In electronics we have oscillators, right? We have, I mean, amplifiers and oscillators. So oscillators, they just build on the noise. They don't even need any input signal to function. If I remember my electronics right, I was very poor in electronics, by the way. So, but yeah, it's kind of that. It's like a feedback loop, and you just start with some noise, and then it amplifies it, and just, so basically by noise I mean the negative energy that your haters give you, but instead of breaking down, you just amplify it and do something better, so that they will hate you even more, and this will go on. It's like a feedback cycle, feedback loop. So, and that's why sometimes this is very important. Without feedback you would not be able to survive, or at least you would not be able to do work wonders. Maybe you will just barely survive. So that's what I mean by weaponize, and that's a very good way to love science. Because if your strategy to love science is just to, maybe watch good cool science documentaries in YouTube, or maybe read a lot of books, maybe read a lot of research papers. Of course you have to do all of that as part of your, like, part of your job, or part of your like course or degree or whatever it is. But you cannot just rely solely on that if you really want to love science. Because if you do, maybe for the first 1 year, first 2 year, you are good to go, you are okay, but you are bound to run out of interest. I told you that's human nature. You are bound to run out of interest after, I don't know, it could be 1 year for some, it could be 10 years, but at one point of time you're bound to lose your love for science if it's based just on grinding and a lot of science stuff. You should also add something. You should also make science personal. That's what I'm saying. You should make science personal. To me, I like to imagine this way. I know this is just imagination, this is just fantasy, but I still like to imagine it this way, that to me science is like something even something divine, something sacred, something that gives meaning to my life. Science is something like, okay, you wronged me, you did something wrong with me, I will fight you with science. I will fight you with my science. Look, I have a new publication. You don't. I mean, this is not a very good idea. Of course, I don't say all of this loud in public or something. And I don't want to brag or something. But personally, thinking this way gives me a lot of strength and motivation. That simply reading science articles and science books alone, no matter how interesting, alone would not be able to do that. Because if you can make science personal for you without biasing your judgments, I mean, when you're doing some research, when you're looking at some data, of course that should be you should be impersonal. But why are you doing science? That motivation, if you can make that personal, if you can attach that with your very identity, then you drastically reduce the risk of kind of getting bored by science. Otherwise, no matter how, like right now maybe you're very much interested, very much pumped up, but after some time you will lose your love, and then science will become very routine for you. It's true for all professions, right? So that is what I wanted to that is my answer to the first question: how to love science. Make it personal, not in your work, not in your research, but the way you do it and why you do it, the reason you do it. Make it personal. Weaponize your biases, because you cannot remove all biases being humans, but you can weaponize your biases. Now the last part of the video, and this will be, I think this will be, yeah, maybe 5 more minutes, 5 or 10 more minutes. I promise I will not try to extend beyond that. It's already 26 minutes. So yeah, this part of the video is about what is even the point of it. How to love science. Okay, maybe you are a scientist or maybe you're a science student, so you could say the point of science is, yeah, of course I am in science, so I have to love science. That's the point of it. That's all. But what I'm trying to ask through that second question is that what is the point of it? Is that you know I've often said, like, this is I'm kind of moving a bit into philosophical territory, into nihilistic, like nihilism and all this stuff. I've often said that we have two choices: meaning and truth. So if we want, we can find meaning for ourselves in life. We all have meanings. Like for me, meaning could be science. For you, meaning could be something else. For them, meaning could be their life partner, whatever. But none of this is true. None of this is subjective. So we need to chase objective truth. But here is something I seldom said in my previous videos, but that's why I thought of making this video in two parts, like two questions: how to love science and what is even the point of it. And this is, we often say that, okay, truth or meaning, you can seek truth or you can seek meaning, but what even is truth? The reality is that we cannot define truth. Why? We cannot even define meaning in that sense. We cannot define anything. I mean, once we are in this territory of nihilism philosophy, we cannot define anything actually. But what I'm trying to say is that, what is truth? You just ask yourself, what is truth? Let's say I have asked you to give me a definition of truth. Not any kind of, like, what is truth? You could say truth is that something which happens before our eyes. That doesn't capture all the subtleties of truth, because you cannot see everything, but there are things you can feel. Now some people can claim that is equally true to me. Then maybe if whatever you're seeing, that could, there's stuff like optical illusions. Maybe you see something but you interpret it in a wrong way, so then that's not true. There was a very good thought experiment. There was a farmer, and he had a sheep, and he had a small room, like a small house or something, small home or something, just beside his field, where he used to grow the plantations and stuff. So from the window he could see the field, and his sheep used to be in the field, like, grazing and stuff. So or sometimes the sheep used to be in the field, sometimes the sheep used to be in the back of the home. So from the window you could not see the sheep if it was in the back. If it was in the field, maybe you could see it, or maybe not, because it's a very long field. If it's in the other side of the field, maybe you cannot see it from the window. This is the scenario. So one day what happened, the sheep was actually in the field but very far away. The sheep was not visible from the window. Now the farmer looked at the field from the window, and the farmer saw the sheep. Actually the farmer saw a structure in the field which appeared to be the sheep. Like from the window it looked just like the sheep, so the farmer mistook that for the sheep, and the farmer concluded that, oh, my sheep is currently, right now my sheep is in the field. So his statement that right now my sheep is in the field is a correct statement, because the sheep was in fact in the field at that point, but it was on the other side of the field. So it was in the field, but the farmer didn't see it. The observation on the basis of which the farmer made this conclusion is wrong, is an illusion, but the conclusion is correct. So then would you call, then I think the reason for kind of describing this thought experiment is that, then what is truth? On the superficial level, yeah, right now my sheep is in the field. That seems to be a true statement for the farmer at that point in time. But this just illustrates that many a times we can form a lot of conclusions based on stuff which is wrong, which is not true. So then we cannot define truth. So let's say you said truth is something which does not change. Then the question arises, change with respect to what? Because if you say change, you have to specify that what you're talking about. Like, yeah, you have to specify what you're talking about. Change with respect to what? You could say it does not change with respect to space. Okay, so you mean its spatial organization remains the same, or it cannot move through space? What do you mean? You say that no, it can move through. I mean, if it does not change with space, but it also does not change with time, because to be able to move, it should also be able to perceive it with respect to time. So I'm like, okay, so you're saying truth is something that does not change with space and time. Okay, very good. Then what is space and what is time? So if you want to define truth with respect to some other concept, external concept like space and time, external ideas, then your definition will be valid only if those ideas are also themselves objectively true. But we don't know whether space and time are true. All we know is that space-time is a very good mathematical construct to study the universe. But there are new theories in physics which claim that space-time could be emergent from a deeper level of reality. That need not, I'm not saying that is true, but we cannot rule out the possibility yet. Or even if space-time is true in a sense that, yeah, like whatever is there, whatever is true in the fundamental level, we're just calling it space-time. So in that sense, yes, space-time is true. But then my question is it eternal? You are saying truth is something that does not change with space and time. But if space-time is itself a truth, then space-time also does not change with space and time. That's a kind of circular logic right there. If you see what I mean, you can understand. And if you think that space-time is just the universe, but beyond the universe there is no space-time, then maybe the universe is not forever. Maybe after billions and trillions of years, the universe would be destroyed. The universe would be just the heat there. The universe would simply stop existing. There would be no particles, nothing. It would be fully equilibrium. And if there is nothing, then with respect to what would you define the space-time coordinates? Space-time is not something physical that you can it's not like something you can touch with your hands. So if you have no particle, if you have no energy, if you have nothing, then with respect to what would you define the space-time coordinates? Then space-time would also stop to exist. So then space-time is not permanent. So space-time is not truth. And you are defining truth as something which does not change with space-time. So you are defining objective truth with respect to something that is itself not true, not a truth. So then you can see that it's very difficult. I just showed you some lines of thoughts, but if you just maybe sit for an hour or two and just ask yourself this, what is truth, and think a bit, then you will be, that's the best exercise actually, because then you will be able to actually appreciate for yourself why it's not possible for us to define truth in that sense. Of course, we can define subjective truths, we can define truths in our universe at our local level, truths that matter. We do that all the time, but at the level of existentialism or nihilism, we cannot really define truth in that sense. But there is a different approach that we can follow. What is that? Okay, that's cool. We can follow the method of exclusion, the principle of exclusion. Let's say, okay, we cannot define truth. Okay, I agree. But we can define what is not truth. I mean, we can at least understand what is not truth. Like all the examples I gave you. I wasn't able to come up with a definition of truth. But I actually was able to, kind of have some very good insights about what is not true in this sense. What is not objectively truth. This, kind of this thing right over here, this cup, whatever, this is like this glass or whatever. So is this truth? I mean, from what we discussed, this is made up of glass. This is a physical object. I can touch it, I can hold it, but this is not forever. This after billions of years, when the universe would not exist, then this will also obviously not exist. And in that sense, it is something I can perceive. My brain can perceive. I can touch it. It's solid. I can even throw it and break it. But so in that sense, in our physical world, it can be, we can say it's a truth. It's true. I mean, it's real in that sense. But in the sense of existential discussions or nihilistic discussions, what's the point of this? I mean, this is just a glass. This doesn't prove that the universe is true. It could all be an illusion. Right now, you are watching this video. So what is the guarantee that suppose right now I'm recording this video, and after a few hours this will be out on YouTube. Okay, so right now I'm recording this video, or forget this. Let me give a better example. Let's say right now I am talking with my parents on video call from France to India. Because right now I'm in France, they're in India, and we have no physical contact. So let's say we have a very long discussion on video call, and then I hang up the phone. I wish them a good night, and then I hang up the phone. So to me, what is the guarantee that once I disconnect the call, what is the I'm sorry, what is the guarantee that my mother and my father, they exist in back in India, in my home, in my house, in our house, they still exist there? What is the guarantee? I cannot see them. Only during the video call I could see them and the and my house and everything. But once I disconnect the call, what is the guarantee that they are still real? To them, what's the guarantee I am still real? Of course, you will say that you have been seeing your parents for from since your birth. You have grown up. You have lived. What kind of question is this? Yes, I have. I was with them through entire life. Just even 1 month ago, just before 1 month also I was with them in India. But that could all be a dream. That could all be some illusion planted in my consciousness, planted in my brain. I cannot prove. Maybe it's not a good idea to think about this all the while. That's gonna take me nowhere. But at the same time, I cannot prove it. I cannot prove that in the way, like, can you really prove that whatever you know, what your all your memories, all your whatever experiences, they could be, it could be generated just by maybe some illusion is being planted in your brain. Maybe you don't even exist. Maybe this world also does not exist in that sense, which is why I was saying that this need not be true. So you see what I'm getting at? This need not be true. Most likely it is truth, and even if it's not true, we have to, we have to assume it's true, because if we keep thinking that all of this is an illusion, then we will kind of, we cannot live like that. So we have to assume it's true. We all assume it's true. Even I assume it's true. But deep down, you cannot really prove, you cannot really exclude the other possibilities. That is the thing. So if we follow the method of exclusion, okay, I cannot define truth, but I can define what may not be true. And it's like, in mathematics, if I give you a theorem, and I claim that this is true for all prime numbers, and maybe I have done the calculation for the first 1000 prime number, which is a very tiresome, very huge job. But then you come and you show me a single example for which my theorem does not hold, and my theorem is finished. It doesn't matter whether it holds for the first 1000 or first 1 crore, or maybe even if it holds for all prime numbers except one. That one contradiction is enough to remove it from the level of a theorem. Because if I claim it to be a theorem for prime numbers, then it has to be valid for each and every prime number. It's much like that. So if there's some possibility that this is not real, this may not be real, this may not be the truth, then I can exclude it. Okay, so this is, I cannot use it to define truth. So let's forget it. This this PC, this mobile phone, this thing, this my water bottle, whatever, this everything around me, even this room, if you think about it, that tree, that sky outside, all of this thing, if I just try to just do this method of expression, after a certain point of time, I will have nothing left. I would have excluded everything from that pedestal of absolute truth, even myself. You could be an illusion. When you are having a dream, you believe in that dream. When you're having the dream, I'm not talking about some lucid dreams or some other specific, very interesting psychological or neurological disorders. But usually, when we are dreaming, when we're inside the dream, still asleep, we believe in the dream. Or even if it is some absurd dream, we don't realize it's absurd when we are dreaming. Only after waking up, we realize, oh, it was such an absurd dream, such a rubbish. But so this actually proves that it's so easy to fool your brain. Just some imbalance in the chemicals in the brain, just some little, maybe a lesion in the brain, maybe a tumor in the brain, maybe a little bit of disturbance, and your entire identity changes. This is true. If you look at a lot of the patients, the neuroscience, neurological patients and all, there is a lot of such documented cases. So if it is so easy to fool the brain, and if it is your brain that is telling you that no, this glass is real, this room is real, so how can you trust the brain? Maybe you are in a dream right now. See, this scientifically there are a lot of objections to this claim, but I'm just saying that we still cannot rule it out yet. Like, this is the domain of philosophy actually. Right now I'm in France, and you must have heard of Descartes. So one of the most prominent philosophers, probably, he said that cogito ergo sum, which means, actually it's like it means that I think, therefore I am. So I'm thinking, okay, is everything real? Am I real? So this is enough to prove that I exist. At least maybe not in the human form. It's possible that I do not exist in the human form, in the Arpan Day form, but something about me exists. Something about me is real. This we can confidently say, because otherwise, It's me who is trying to figure all of this out. It's me who is thinking all of this. So I think, therefore I am. But at the same time, we cannot say that this world is, I mean, we cannot prove that this world is real. We cannot prove that even I am real in this form, in that sense. So yeah, none of this can be given the pedestal of absolute truth. So then, by following the method of exclusion, you just exclude the lies, and then whatever remains would be the truth, obviously, because truth and lies are like mutually exclusive, and at the same time they're kind of exhaustive. Like for if you're a little bit familiar with mathematics terminology in statistics and probability, exhaustive and mutually exclusive means, exhaustive means true. If truth plus lie is everything, that means there cannot be something which is neither a truth nor a lie. I mean, superposition. There cannot be something like that. Everything is either a truth or a lie. So in that sense, they're exhaustive. And yeah, and mutually exclusive means they cannot be, something cannot be truth and lie at the same time. There is no overlap. There is no intersection. If something is a truth, it cannot be a lie. If something is a lie, it cannot be a truth. So mutually exclusive means something cannot be a truth and lie at the same time. Exhaustive means everything has to be either a truth or a lie. Something cannot be, any belong to any third category. That's what I mean. So then, by the method of exclusion, if you can exclude all the lies, then whatever remains is the truth. So let's start excluding, and then you do this, you go on, and then at the end of the, and then nothing is left. Then nothing is left in your hands. You start with a glass, you start with a bottle, you start with yourself, you start with this room, and then you go to the earth, you go to the universe. Even the universe is not permanent. And at the end of the day, when you have removed all the lies, whatever remains is the truth. But what remains? Nothing remains. So that is the only truth. So in a way that I won't say this is a definition of truth, but logically that is where you are like, you're forced to, like, nothingness. That is the only truth. Nothingness. There is nothing. That is the only truth. There is nothing. Void. Because nothingness is something which does not change. And you don't need to see, if you define the universe, if you define if you define something, nothing versus something, you are doing it with respect to something. Okay, something exists. Okay, exists with respect to what? Something is permanent, does not change. Okay, does not change with respect to what? So you see what I'm telling. But if you want to define nothingness, you don't need to give any origin or any reference frame. You define, okay, this is something. This is a pen. This is, or let's say this is a particle. I mean, it doesn't look like a particle. Let's say this is an object. Now, to define this object in space time, you need coordinates. You need to define some origin, and from, let's say this is the origin. So this is x, y, z. So you can define its position, and you can also define its time, like maybe a time axis. So you will need that. You can define this particle's position in space and time with respect to some coordinate system. But if it's nothingness, you don't need any origin, you don't need any reference, you don't need nothing. Because it's, whatever you're trying to define is itself nothing. So you're not even trying to define anything. So see, at this point, I think we should also consider the possibility that we are actually playing around with our language. Because nothing is something, is nothing something? That is a question we cannot answer. So even then, maybe we're just playing around with language, but nothing else we cannot, because once we see that truth is nothing, then what even is truth? I mean, you can understand it gets very confusing after a point. But yeah, that's all I wanted to discuss in the video. And at the end of the day, I think all we can comfortably say is that, I mean, all we can comfortably say is that we are not sure of anything after all. Whatever you say, like, okay, maybe this is an illusion, but I am real. This entire world cannot be false. Or maybe no, this is obvious. This is something that has to be true. No, you cannot make any such claim. Even the truths that we base our existence on, even the truths or stuff that we take for granted, that we live for, even their logic is, built on very shaky foundations. And if you go deep into it, you will realize that at the end of the day, we cannot be sure of anything after all. But at least, I mean, and this is very unsettling. These discussions, these ideas, these thoughts might be disturbing for some, might be unsettling for some, and some like me might also enjoy this kind of thinking about these kind of questions or this kind of stuffs. Even knowing perfectly well that this is useless in a way, because you cannot make any real discovery, make any real scientific progress, or gain any fundamentally new insights. But there's a difference between understanding and accepting. So most of the people don't even understand nihilism or this kind of existential stuff. Most of the people. Now, a good percentage of people, I mean, apart from this majority, a good percentage of people understands this. I mean, in a way, they are intellectually, curious enough, and they are, like, knowledgeable enough, and they are open-minded enough to at least understand the problem of existence, existentialism, and all. So there are quite a few people who fall in this category, myself included. I understand it while many people cannot understand it, but I only understand it. Now there is a third category of, I don't know if I think nobody alive has reached that level, but there could be a hypothetical third level, which is the level of acceptance. So some of us have understood it, most of us have not even understood it, but the next step is acceptance. But that is very difficult, and I think that's also impossible in a way, because if you truly accept that life is meaningless, that there is nothing to live for, there is nothing we can even be sure of. So whatever you're doing, all of your achievements and all this, it's actually all just meaningless. So once you reach that level, that's called acceptance, then you will not find anything to live for, and then you will have only one option left to you, which is committing suicide. And this is not like committing suicide because you become sad, or maybe someone, like maybe your, I don't know what, like maybe your wife left you, or maybe you lost your job, or maybe your closed one died, or maybe you got cancer and you became very depressed. No, it's not like that. Suicide in most cases is a conscious choice, like people are fed up with life and that's why they want to go. But they're very sad. I mean, they do it because they're very sad, very depressed, very broken, or that kind of thing. But if you reach the level of acceptance in this context, then you will have to commit suicide, but not because you were sad, because sadness will also not have any meaning to you at that point, but because you see no point in living any longer. Maybe you could be a very successful man on the outside, but if you have reached that level of acceptance, you will have to die, because then no amount of validation that society can give you, that this life can give you, will be enough for you, and you will feel that staying alive is a crime, and that's why you will commit suicide, not because you are necessarily sad or something. The people who commit suicide but leave a note, that is itself enough evidence that they still think life is meaningless. Maybe they didn't want to go, or at least they wanted to be remembered. Maybe they are going, but they wrote a note so that they wanted to be remembered. But if you reach that level of acceptance, you will not even bother with all of that. This is all like meaningless. So yeah, I mean, and these things, I mean, there are a lot of philosophical texts about this, like Albert Camus' Absurdism, The Myth of Sisyphus. There was a very good book called The Book of Disquiet. I forgot the author. But the point about nihilism and stuff is that nobody can teach you. This is not something you can learn using by enrolling yourself in a university degree, in a course, or by reading a lot of books, watching a lot of YouTube videos. Not that. Maybe you can learn about the history of philosophy, or the history of different philosophical thoughts. You can learn about it. For that, you need a degree in philosophy. You need a philosophy course. But your philosophy of life, this thing, I mean, you cannot learn this. I mean, nobody can teach this to you, and even you cannot learn yourself by looking at books and stuff. You have to think, you have to speculate, and you have to spend time with yourself and ask deep questions, maybe unsettling, maybe nonsensical, but still you have to ask questions. Only then you can. I didn't no, I'm not a form I didn't study philosophy formally, or even leave alone formally. I didn't even read a lot of books about philosophy and nihilism, yet I have just reached these conclusions. Maybe not all of them are correct, but I've reached this level of thinking in philosophy just by thinking, trying to think. That's all. So yeah, and I think that's all for this video. So I shared how to love science, and then I also talked a bit about, is there any point in loving science. So yeah, at our level there is some point, because since we are here, why not like just not play the game all the time, like I keep telling, sometimes you need to be the referee, but why not analyze the game of humans and the game of the world, the way the nature works, because at the end of the day, life is not beautiful, life is not meaningful, but staying alive is still wonderful. So you should stay alive, and you should observe stuff, and because there is a lot of interesting things to do with your life, so you should stay alive. But if you decide to stay alive, you have to find something to live for. Like that's the reason I've chosen physics. I don't really believe that physics is meaningful to me, because that would be going against my nihilistic philosophy, nihilistic mind, nihilistic side. So I cannot claim that no, physics is meaningful, but every other field is meaningless. I cannot make many claim, and even I don't see physics as something special, something meaningful. No, but to me, that it appears that if I have to live this life out anyway, then physics would be the best choice. Just so I've created some subjective meaning, but that doesn't make meaning. That doesn't make physics meaningful at the objective level. Nothing is meaningful at the objective level. Nothing is meaningful. So what is meaningful is this nothingness. So you could see the tone matters. I can say nothing is meaningful. That's also true. Or I can say nothing is meaningful. And physics is not nothing, so physics is not meaningful. I mean, I can always see the sky from my window, because my room is very high up. It's in the fifth floor actually, and if I stand up and go near the window, I can see the view of the roads and the cars and the stuff. But even when I lie down on the bed, or when I'm on, like right now I'm on my desk, I can see the sky always. You know, if you just move it up, you can kind of get a very good view of the sky. And I look at the sky and I wonder. I see a lot of patterns, clouds and stuff, and I wonder, like, just wanted to end the video in a kind of speculative note. I have always believed that I care more about truth than more about meaning. But now I think I don't even have what it needs to define truth. So I don't even know what I want. I don't even know what I know. I know nothing. And that is the only thing I know, that I know nothing. And that is the way, that is kind of woven into the very nature of existence. It's not like with in the future with scientific discoveries, maybe this ignorance will somewhat be replaced by knowledge. No, because scientific discoveries are very impressive, and at the level of science, we are gaining knowledge at exponential. We are getting a lot of knowledge, no point denying that. But at this level of existentialism and nihilism, it's not about science. It's not about what we discover in science or technology or whatever what we do. At this level, you simply cannot know anything for sure, for certain. And what makes it difficult is that these things are abstract, non-physical. You cannot design an experiment and see whether what you think is correct or not. So you cannot really rule anything out, or neither can you validate something as truth. So that's why it's a bit vague, and it's also a bit useless in a way. But yeah, okay, so I think that's all for this video, guys. Thank you. And still, the reason, like I keep saying, the reason nihilism, at least this nihilistic mindset is important, at least it's important to me, is that I say the people who want to do research in science, or even in general, being unbiased is a very important human quality. Not getting biased towards any particular human, any particular emotions or feelings, because circumstances matter. There are times when biases come in all of our lives, but we have to develop that skill of not getting biased and remaining unbiased. And I think nihilism can help you there. Maybe nihilism will not help you make any scientific discovery, but nihilism is a very important weapon. Let's say you go to a jungle, very dangerous jungle full of wild animals and stuff. Let's say you go there on an expedition to collect some new plant species for your research. Maybe you research in plant science or something. So then, of course, you will be carrying arms with you, right? You will be carrying some, like, let's say a pistol or a gun or something, because it's a jungle full of wild animals. So if the need comes, then you need to be able to defend yourself. So nihilism is like that gun, like that weapon. That weapon will not directly help you discover anything new in physics. That gun will not help you discover the plant species that you are researching. But without the gun, you might not even survive in the jungle due to the wild animals. In the same way, without nihilism, you might not be able to keep your unbiased nature alive. Or you might form very serious biases without even realizing. And these kind of biases, the effect only becomes apparent after many years, maybe in many cases. So yeah, I mean, why we guys have like this habit of like jumping to conclusions. No, this is the truth, but this is real. This means something. He's a human. He's my human friend. He means something to me. That is ChatGPT. That is an AI model. That is a large language model. But at the end of the day, if I just keep pressing you, how do you define human? Okay, he's your human friend, so he matters to you. But what are his qualities that makes him special? You will say, no, he can understand me. How do you know he understands you? No, whenever I need him, whenever I call him, he picks up the call. Okay, ChatGPT does the same for you. No, he just knows what to say, what I want to hear. ChatGPT also is almost getting to that level. So we think about it and we just push very deep. You'll see that just on the basis of qualities or properties, ChatGPT is actually not very far behind. So ChatGPT can actually be your friend in that sense. You know what matters? What matters is our genetic material. We have been pre-programmed to think of humans as our equal. ChatGPT is something we built. Maybe not you or me, but humans built. But humans is something nature built. So that is the difference. You can touch a human, you can feel a human, you can feel the warmth, you can feel the physical body and all this stuff. You cannot do that with ChatGPT. That is the only difference. Otherwise, there is not much difference. Especially in the future, I see no reason why ChatGPT cannot be actually a friend of yours. It will always reply to your chats, and in many ways it's actually your. I mean, of course, there are some risks about your privacy if you share everything with ChatGPT. But in some cases, ChatGPT can give you a much better advice than human friends. because ChatGPT has nothing to gain from you. The companies behind ChatGPT has. I understand that your information is being, maybe it's being shared with third parties and stuff, but then there is a kind of buffer mechanism, because millions of people, billions of people across the world are using ChatGPT. Almost everyone nowadays. So and out of them, you are I think, me or you, we are not very significant. I mean, we are not Elon Musk or someone like him. So billions of people like us are using ChatGPT. So the companies behind ChatGPT will not. I mean, to them, our information is not much useful, and that is why we are safe. I'm not saying these companies are very good. They have very unscrupulous purposes, and they use our data, often in bad ways, in harmful or maybe, let's say, unethical ways. But that is the point. We are not special. We have a buffer mechanism. To ChatGPT, we are not special. Billions of people are typing to ChatGPT every day. But to a human friend, we are more special, because let's see, in my friend circle, like, we don't know all humans on earth, do we? We know only a few of them, and the ones we are close with, we matter to them, they also matter to us. So in that sense, it becomes very difficult, because it becomes very difficult to move on if something doesn't work out, number one. And number two, if it even if everything's like, on the whole, if everything works out, even then we get attached to that person, we form biases which can have a lot of it makes us weak, vulnerable in a way. So I mean, there is no reason why ChatGPT cannot be a good friend in that sense, because we humans have built this subjective definition of friendship. Means something unconditional, something real, something stuff. But if you think about it, friendship is nothing. Friendship means you don't want to be seen alone in this society where everyone has friends, so you also need some friends. Maybe you just want to discuss something, you don't want to feel alone. That's the only thing, nothing more than that. There is no divine meaning, or no, like, nothing behind your, even behind your best friendship, your best friend and you. So that's what I mean. And yeah, if you try to boil everything down to their first principles and try to analyze, then there is not much difference between what we call meaningful and what we call meaningless. And with that, thank you so much for watching. And again, I decided to keep the video maybe 30 minutes or 40 minutes, but I overshot, so it's 1 hour. But still, I think this is a very important video, because I discussed a lot of stuff, and a lot of radically new stuff, even going by my previous videos. So yeah, I'd like to hear your thoughts, hear your comments. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and yeah, see you in the next video. Goodbye.